The community in Fredericksburg is growing, and we know that people choose to live here, and for very good reason. It's important that we have resources in place so that people can take care of themselves, so that our economy can keep moving, so that this community can continue to thrive. And this is our opportunity to help them stay well and stay part of the community as contributing members.
Please join us in keeping Fredericksburg and Gillespie County special. Be Texas friendly. Share the road. Put litter in its place. Respect private property. And protect our dark skies. Thank you for caring about our community.
It is exciting getting ready for the big 4th of July parade here in beautiful Fredericksburg, Texas. This has become burning with the rebound.
Welcome to the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce.
Please on time here, 3,500. So that go to your dad.
And we hear that promise again in John's Gospel.
We love living in the country.
When I think about
Husband.
Along the fairways at Lady Bird have a way of slowing time.
Hey there, well, welcome, Billy fans. This is
on September 25th, 1925.
John
when she sank
Crawford Fritch.
one for the city manager.
All right. Hey, John. How are you? You snuck in.
Yeah, just.
Yes, sir. Gene Fisher. All right, good morning, everyone. If I could get you to grab a coffee and something to eat and take a seat, please. Wow, we have a full house. All right, this table right here. Thank you very much. My parents were both educators, so I get that from them. Thank you for being here today. What a crowd of folks. So we have a little bit different program today, as we have been highlighting different departments, trying to highlight different departments every month. Our public information officer is going to be talking about what the city's public information office does. So they play a very key role in the organization, getting news out, informing the council of what's going on, social media-wise, otherwise. We've had a little bit of excitement lately. You've probably read in the newspaper. The PIO is all involved in that. I'm not going to take away from Sean's presentation. Just very quickly, show of hands for who has never been to coffee with the city manager. This is your first time. Okay. Could I get a show of hands of people that are from San Angelo? So we have our new, I'm going to go ahead and call you out. We have our new Walmart store manager with us today. And I know your name is Roland. It's Rodney. Rodney. And last name? Castro. Rodney Castro. You look very familiar. We'll catch up a little bit later. But welcome to Fredericksburg. That's a huge job over there. So I'm also from San Angelo. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to our PIO and let him get started. So as I work through all the city departments, I ask, some of them I ask if they want to do a presentation. Some of them I just surprise them with presentations. Take it easy on Sean. He's really good, but he's been highly anticipating this moment, getting in front of a crowd. And I'm glad there's so many people here. So that just adds to it, you know. So don't make him sweat too much. He's got a lot of info to pass on. But Sean, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad it's a little cooler this morning. I'm not sweating as much to talk to you all this morning. So, as Clinton mentioned, I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Fredericksburg. My name is Sean Dory. We're going to go through a little bit of what I do today, and then I'd love some feedback from you guys. We have 2 mics in the room. We're streaming this live on Fbg.Live, so make sure you wait for a mic. We got people in the room. Raise your hand. They'll come to you to ask a question. But before we dive in, I know it's early. Everybody have that first cup of coffee. Let's start with a little celebration. We have stripes on Main Street. I took these photos this morning. They are still working. We're getting more stripes. The traffic patterns are sorting themselves out. Chris may talk a little bit more about this after my presentation's done, but a long time coming. Clinton mentioned social media. That has been my life for the last 2 weeks, or no, 2 months probably, talking about the text dot modifications on Main Street. I'll tell you one of my biggest frustrations in this job, I've only been in it 8 months, is we don't control everything. This was a TxDOT project, so we didn't really get as much input or as much communication out on it as we wanted to because we didn't have the information. But thank you all for being patient. Thank you all for bearing with us. Thank you all for being cautious while you're out driving. We think this is going to be a real help for the traffic around Main Street. All right, I just took these from my job description, so I won't bore you with it too much, but as Clinton mentioned, I keep the community informed by distributing press releases and info via email. Our website is a huge resource. If you're not using that regularly, you should, Fbg.Live. Social media, and then my audiences out to the media. I kind of act as that intermediary between city government and the media, whether that's local, regional, national, and we'll go through some of those people that we deal with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. The public, and then one thing I've really worked hard since I started 8 months ago is getting communication out to our staff. So that internal communication, and we'll look at a couple ways of how I do that. So my day-to-day, I keep the website updated. I handle social media. I provide that public relations perspective. This is probably my favorite part of the job. My background is in public relations, and so we have a lot of engineers in the room. I think we have 5 professional engineers now on staff. Today, I think we got 3 in the room. Engineers think differently, and that's something I've learned in the last 8 months. So I am not an engineer. I'm more on the creative, what could go wrong side of things. So how is this going to be taken when we give this information out? So I really look forward to giving that perspective, as well as coordinate special projects. We've done a couple videos. I think we've showed a couple in this room. So all of those lead up to that. Those media outlets that I mentioned, so I kind of break them up by local media. So we have our newspaper in town, the Fredericksburg Standard Radio Post. Radio, Clinton in the last couple months has started a weekly radio segment. If you're not listening to that, we provide some good information there. Thursdays at 1 p.m. on 99.1 The Buck. It's out of Kerrville, but they broadcast here from Fredericksburg. Brent Burgess hosts that segment, so tune into that, 99.1 The Buck, Thursdays at 1 p.m. And then social media groups. I mean, this has grown in the last 20 years astronomically. So whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we are all now members of the media, I feel like. And that was probably showcased more than anything in this last election cycle. So got to keep our finger on the pulse of what our citizens are saying and how we can respond and maybe get the right information out there when things are going the wrong direction. Then regionally, we work with San Antonio and Austin TV stations, mysa.com, the San Antonio Express News. Both of those are big, provide us coverage of our events. And then I came from the Convention and Visitor Bureau here in Fredericksburg. I worked there 7 years, and they are working all the time with state and national media to cover Fredericksburg and to showcase all the great things to do in town. And then we got to work with the Weather Channel on the eclipse last year. That was really cool. So what have I done in the 8 months that I've been here? We've refreshed our logo. We've got a branding guide out. Our staff has taken new headshots so you can see who you're talking to when you call City Hall and when you're looking to talk to someone. And then I talked about those internal communication enhancements. So our logo was all over the map, and I hope for you guys in the back of the room you can kind of see this. We've standardized that. The 2 at the top are our 2 now preferred standard logos. Down below are a couple versions that were out floating about. You will still see these around town. We're not going to spend taxpayer dollars to rip logos off buildings, any of that. It's just going forward, anything we print, anything we put up a sign will now have these 2 logos at the top instead of maybe some of the other versions you see there. Here's the headshot. So I picked out the city manager page here. Clinton and Garrett are on that. They now have headshots along with all of our department heads, so you can see who you're talking to. That internal communication. So this is something we started probably about 6 months ago. Every Thursday, our internal staff gets this email and just highlights 3 topics that are kind of being talked about in the department. This is obviously last week's. We have open enrollment going on right now for our health benefits. We tried to get some information out on those text dot modifications, and then we looked at all of the events that are coming up in town. So Lissa will recap casino night, and then we had a council meeting yesterday, which Clinton will recap in a moment, and then you all are sitting here at Coffee with the City Manager on November 20th. So one added aspect, every month we're going to start putting this out. November was our first edition, so it gives our staff a look at who's having a birthday that month, our work anniversaries, who's been hired, promoted, or retired, and then spotlights one department. Last week we spotlighted the water department. So this is all in an effort to kind of, we are a massive, massive department, from public works to parks to development services. Massive organization, I should say. So this is kind of to connect those dots, how we all work together. And that's something I can say for my first 8 months is you don't realize how big a city government is until you get into it, and all the great people that are there that you work with. So, you know, we don't get to see each other on a daily basis, but we can communicate and know each other, what we're doing, and how we can benefit each other. Some of our current projects. I know some of you in the room have gone through our Citizen University. The application process for the 2025 class is now open. So if you want to learn more about what all of the departments in the city do, please apply. That's open through Friday, December 6th. It's 11 monthly sessions. They occur January through November, about an hour and a half. And each one of our departments takes one of those sessions and gives you a deep dive into everything they do on a weekly, daily basis. So we've got some applications in, but would like more. We're looking for probably 25 to 30 people to go through our 2025 class. So our website has the application. It's Fbg.Live if you're interested in that. We'd love to have you apply. I mentioned the logo refresh was spurred by a website redesign, so Fbg.Live will be getting a new look in early 2025. We are busy on that part of things with the website sitemap. So I know everyone doesn't love change, but it's time for a change on our website. We have a ton of pages that we're going to try to condense down, try to get you the information you need quicker, not as many clicks. And as part of that, we will have and I feel like there's a lot of websites going to this now, but a chat bot in the bottom right corner that will help with search functionality and try to get you the information you're looking for on our website as quickly as possible. All right, I threw a lot at y'all real quick there, so I'll stop it right there. Anybody have any questions? Sorry to Alyssa and Leslie. On your table, while they're getting the mic to you, you should have a little cutout of the 2025 dates for this event, Coffee with the City Manager. They're always on Wednesdays. They will always be here unless we announce otherwise. So you can take that home, hand it to a neighbor if they're interested, and we will continue streaming on Fbg.Live too. Yes, sir, in the back.
First, thank you. You've done a good job, including the parade. Your presence is felt only in 8 months, right? So a year from now, we expect it to be even better.
Okay, thanks.
How are you tracking whether or not people are actually connecting to the city? I think I hear through all of my neighbors they're talking about the city. They're not talking to the city.
Yes, absolutely.
And how is your communication? You're talking out. How are you getting people to talk to you about what their questions or complaints are?
I would say I think we've done a pretty good job of that, and we'll keep getting better at it. We just looked last week at a way for citizens to report issues that they're seeing in town. We have that functionality on our website now, but it's not very well out there, and maybe most of you don't even know exists. But that will be one way that we continue to get input in. We got featured about 3 months ago in a video for our community outreach, and I can't take credit for this because it happened before I got here, but Clinton started meeting in 27, 28 town halls around town. So that was a way that we got out into the community. This event, if you have something, you know, our staff is here. I see 7 or 8 department heads in the room. If you have something you want to bring to the city, this is a great forum to that as well. All our phone numbers, all of our emails are listed on the website. So if you have an issue and you don't want to present it in a public forum, we always like to hear from you so we can address that issue before it gets worse. That answer your question? We're continuing to work on it. I promise you that. I mean, the radio spot helps get that information out. Now,
I think you've got a good mechanism to go off. I don't think you're getting people to use it as much as they should.
okay, thank you for the feedback. Yes,
John,
sir.
Yeah, George Studer. I have a question about new people. People have moved here. How do they get connected to the different organizations around Gillespie County and the town to learn more about where they've just moved to? So I envision the city as kind of a hub from which, if I go to it, I can find out about churches or, you know, schools, or, you know, can you direct them to
Yeah, I don't
learn
know if we want to get into that. The
the rest
Chamber
of
of
it?
Commerce has a welcome packet, a new...
So you would send them to the Chamber
Yes,
of Commerce?
sir. Yes. And if you're looking for things to do in town, I would say the Visitor Center is a great place to start as well. That kind of George's question, and we got one more in the back. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one quick question. With the this meeting, where is it going to be? The room is full right now.
Well, if we outgrow this room, we will look elsewhere. But I think this may be the biggest crowd we've had in a good while. So I appreciate y'all showing up. We'll continue to add chairs, add tables for the time being.
I was just curious because of the new city hall and all of the space that's over there.
Yes, absolutely. And when we get that done, we're working on plans right now. When that renovation is done, we will probably hold a special coffee with the city manager at the new city hall. So I said, we'll have it here unless we announce otherwise. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, and it's a challenge constantly. We live on a dead-end street, off a dead-end street, which we'll talk about the construction that's blooming. I'm going to call it gently. But we have a lot of people on our street that have lived in those houses since they were built in the late 70s. And many of them have no connection with, they don't do computers, that type of thing, which has to be a huge challenge for you all to try to get information out to them. And you're covering as much as you can, but it's still a challenge. And that's what I've talked to several of them this morning, or about this morning, and they said, well, ask this question or ask that question. And I knew that you all probably have it covered on the website. But what are your thoughts about reaching those people that have been here forever and still are not connected through the internet?
Well, I would say I think we still do a good job of using old media, which would be at this stage radio, newspaper, knocking on doors. Our public works staff, when there's something they're working on in a neighborhood, does a great job of getting out and knocking on doors to alert those citizens. So that's how we would reach those people. We still have someone at City Hall that answers the phone anytime anyone calls, and that's something I will continue to push for. When you call, you don't talk to a robot, you talk to a person who can direct you to the department you need to talk to. So hopefully they have a phone now. We're in the 21st century, so they can call us anytime and get an answer. Yes. George's question kind of segues into this. We're working on a new customer business handout. So George, that will answer some of those questions of how do people get plugged in? How do they get city services? How do they get signed up if they want to use online billing? So our utility billing folks downstairs will hand that out when someone comes in, and it'll answer some of those questions. I think Mr. Musselman mentioned the newspaper. Newspaper is a great place to view all the churches, view all the civic organizations, get plugged in, get involved. Main Street beautification efforts. So these are all of our kind of future projects turning into current projects. Y'all might have seen a couple weeks back the City Council approved the purchase of new trash cans for Main. I believe, Chris, some of those trash cans have been there almost 30 years. So it was time. These trash cans are easier for our staff to use. They look better. We will continue to make efforts. We all know Fredericksburg grew up around Main Street. So I moved here when I was 6. So I've seen the Main Street area become what it is today, and we will continue to fight to keep it unique and beautiful. And then additional employee events. So we're coming up on the holidays. We'll continue to work to bring our staff together to get to know each other. We've had a lot of new faces over the last 2 years. I mean, I think COVID put a big damper on gathering together. We will continue to work to gather our staff together. Info and questions. So you mentioned if folks have questions, I kind of listed out the social media for us here. We have Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And then ways that we try to reach you, the newspaper, the radio, the website. And then we have direct alerts where you can sign up online and get alerts when we push something out. So that's a great way. If you have a cell phone, you can get signed up for that. But here's where I'd like some of your feedback. Is there an avenue we are missing to get you information? Anybody have any thoughts or any questions off of that?
I think you've used this in the past, but I know like some budget information came in the water bills as a flyer. So that's one way, additionally, that you could mail stuff. If there was additional information, you could include that in the flyer with little extra cost for mailing if you could incorporate the two together.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Outreach public gatherings in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned those, but those are something that was started before I got here, and we've kind of talked about bringing them back for 2025. We probably won't do 28. That's just a lot on our staff, but maybe dividing the city up a little in larger, maybe quadrants or 8 to 10 different areas of town and bringing those people together. So yes, that's definitely on the radar for us in 2025. All right. Yeah.
So I think the one thing that you don't have up there is a phone number.
Okay.
Right? And to most people, that's the generation of Fredericksburg is not social media, right? The people that she's worried about reaching and others. And it would be good if in the water bill there was a friendly note that said, hey, we're here. The things you said about a human and all that kind of stuff, if someone hasn't tried, they don't know. I see a generation that's around my father-in-law, who's 95, and he's going, well, I don't know how to reach them. I don't know who to talk to. I'm just going to grumble, right?
Yeah, we don't want that. So we have 4 utility billing specialists, customer service reps. They're at City Hall from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. every day. Yeah. If somebody wants someone to talk to, they can walk in, whether it's a utility bill issue or not.
Yeah,
they will.
Yeah, oh. My point is, if you put a nice, friendly, hi, friend, if you have a question, we'd want to hear from you. Open the communication, make them welcome to do it, whereas people of that generation think they're bothering you, right? If they don't have anything broke, if they've just got to grumble, they don't want to agitate the system. They aren't going to reach up. Yet
All right.
They need to.
Thank you. Give them a refrigerator. Okay. The phone number, by the way, is 830-997-7521. So just to get that out there on the record.
Put it in your speed dial. As you're looking at refreshing the website, I just checked. If you type in coffee with the city manager, the one for today comes up number 1. If you want to look for the one for December, it comes up as the next to the last one of the second page of 10 lists per. might want to put them in, you're going through 2018 and 2019 before you get to December.
Absolutely. So that chat bot that I mentioned we'll be implementing is specifically designed to pull up those most relevant results first. We've visited a lot with our Civic Plus vendor for the website, and they realize search is an issue, so this is kind of their workaround for that. Thank you. All right, let's see. I think I've kind of come to the end of my presentation. Anyone else have any other public information questions? I'm going to kick it over to Alyssa. Alyssa is a huge asset for me because she handles everything I do but for the police department. So her title is Community Outreach Liaison, but she is working really hard to get information out on the police department, all of their community involvement. They had a huge event last Friday, yes, the 15th. So she'll recap that. Chief, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to that, but I'll turn the time over to you guys.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa Rivera. I'm the Community Outreach Liaison for the Police Department. My job is all-encompassing. I do everything from helping with recruitment to PIA requests, to community events, you name it, I have a hat of some sort. So it is a new position. I just had my 1-year anniversary with the police department in October, and I've been very fortunate to see how much our officers have been able to get out and be with our community, which is exactly what we want to do. We want to create those positive relationships and really instill that we are here to help the community in a positive way. And one of those positive ways that the community was able to help us this past week was with the casino night. It was our first inaugural event. We were very fortunate to have it out at the Hangar Hotel, and we sold 193 tickets. We had 147 people in attendance. With the event and a very generous matching donation from Create Healthy, since the inception of our foundation fund, we have been able to raise $130,000. With that money, one of our officers in this upcoming year will be able to purchase a home in Gillespie County. So that's something huge that we are very excited about.
Thank you, Alyssa. She forgot to mention that she does a whole lot more for us than just what she listed off. She's also the police department grant writer. She wrote a couple grants this past year that were awarded and will be receiving funding from soon. So she wears many hats. Community outreach liaison, PIO for the police department, grant writer, Police Foundation Fund organizer, bookkeeper, I mean, all sorts of things. So she's been a great asset to us, and I really appreciate what she's done for the police department over the past year. I just wanted to give a couple thank yous for the Police Foundation Fund. That fund's been in operation for a little under a year. Started up really with all of the opening of the accounts and the paperwork in January. And a couple months ago, we were in a position, we were approached by Create Healthy with a matching grant of $25,000, and that match is open to the end of the year. So the police department and the foundation fund were trying to find a way, how are we going to, get close to that matching grant? What were we going to do? And we went through all of these ideas, and we landed on casino night after a lot of discussion. And casino night was Lieutenant Braxton Raymer's idea. And then Alyssa, we kind of turned it over to her. And she's like, we asked her, can you make this happen in basically a month? Can you get all this together? And I think her response was, watch me. And so within a month, we had a whole event, planned, put together. And so thank you to Alyssa, who almost single-handedly did this entire event for the foundation fund. But to the community and to the support, to the Hangar Hotel, Create Healthy, all our donors and sponsors really made this a great event for us. And we look to do it every year, make it our annual fundraiser. So look for it next year. It'll be bigger and better. And we just appreciate the community and all the support that we've received from y'all, not just for the foundation fund, but for the work all of the officers are doing out there. Thank y'all.
I'll mention before I go, the holidays are around the corner. This is kind of a Parks and Recreation update, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Andrea. I think there was some testing last night of the lights. So next Tuesday night is when the Nights of Lights will kick off at Marketplace. So we have new wreaths around Marketplace and City Hall here. So the holidays are definitely arriving. Ice Bond, the outdoor ice skating rink, opens Saturday, November 23rd. As I mentioned, the nightly lighting countdown starts on Tuesday, November 26th. And then the Light the Nights Christmas Parade that the Chamber puts on is Friday, December 6th. So the Convention and Visitor Bureau has all of the holiday events happening in town on their website. These are kind of the ones that most city staff are involved in. So I highlighted those three, but if you've never been through a holiday season in Fredericksburg, it's pretty darn awesome. All right, sir. I think Alyssa has a mic.
Okay. I'm going to touch on a few of these things and a few additional items. Starting with the City Council meeting yesterday, just quickly, we're starting to see a number of voluntary annexation requests come through. I think people have a little bit more confidence maybe in spending money, doing development since the election is over now. Whatever the result, people I think were really holding back, so I think we'll continue to see a number of those. We had one off North Cherry Street, about 10 or so lots that will be proposed. Again, an area just contiguous to the city limits, but just outside that will be developed. Additionally, we had one associated with the Frieden subdivision on 87 South. Wanted to mention that we have had typically one or two short-term rental appeals on the council agenda. Appeals of my denial of a lot of the short-term rental permits. The council's been doing a good job of being very consistent, following the ordinance. If you're not operating, or if you're operating a short-term rental in town and you're not operating it well and you're following the rules, you're likely going to lose your permit. So thank you to all of the good operators out there. We have a lot of very good ones. I think we've really turned the corner on the bad actors that were, quite frankly, spoiling it for the STR owners that operate well and a lot of folks in the neighborhood. So we had one of those yesterday. One other annexation, a roadway that is maintained by the county, Cemetery Road at the end of Travis Street, where Metzger Road intersects with Travis. There is a property owner that is interested in potentially developing property at the end of that roadway. New legislation passed in 2023 allows annexation by roadway contiguous to city limits. So they could use that as a tool and connecting to the city limits with that roadway to pursue annexation of their property. So a lot more to come on that. That's on the northwest side of town. So a lot of activity going on right there. We also had the council approve a cooperative agreement with the Texas Housing Foundation for a proposed apartment development. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What did I say? Yeah, right. So took the first step in moving forward with an apartment development at the northwest corner of Friendship Lane and Eagle Street, right next to former council member Musselman. pretty close to his backyard. So that was the majority of the items that came out of the meeting yesterday. I wanted to mention that one of the major items we have coming up on the December 3rd agenda is a approval of an engineering agreement for the update of our water wastewater master plan. So updating that master plan, moving forward with a fresh set of capital improvement plan projects, and also looking at long-term water supply. We've always talked about trying to diversify that portfolio. We're 100% groundwater right now, so taking a look at that. Let me jump to a couple of other items. The TxDOT Main Street project. Want to make it clear that that was a TxDOT project. And in the end, it turned out very good. It's interesting when you start these projects, everybody complains about it. The contractors are always in the way. Something's not always right. But when it's done, you kind of forget about all that. Wonderful project. The surface is nice. The striping is nice. They got rid of that no man's land in the middle of the road. They translated that into a wider outside lane in a lot of cases. But I think the main change that I see really makes the biggest difference are the signal modifications. And I don't know if anyone has noticed the center turn lane, left turn lane at Olive Street at Main, and also at Gaiman Lane and Highway Street at the Whataburger. So no longer are you stuck behind the car that's trying to turn left and go out to the landfill. 2 lanes of traffic can go right past that. So that's a huge improvement right there. We did have a little bit of a hiccup with the conversion of the block of Washington Street from Main to Austin to a one-way prior to a lot of other improvements being made that would compensate for traffic heading other directions. We expressed our concerns to TxDOT. They were very quick to address those concerns. Elk Street in particular. In fact, we talked about the curb there that you mentioned last year sometime, driving over, right, 2 years ago, okay. That is something that we might need to address with TxDOT now, since that turn onto North Elk will be even tighter from Main Street. So I just wanted to let you know that we're going to have that conversation with TxDOT. Sean mentioned just a little bit about Main Street beautification. That is something that seems a lot of folks are interested in pursuing. What you will see, hopefully, within the next couple of years is potentially a city crew that is funded by dollars flowing in from our visitors, hopefully hotel occupancy tax, funding a city department that does nothing but clean Main Street. Pick up trash, sweep, power wash sidewalks, maybe water plants that we have. I'm not sure what all, but to complement that, the Chamber of Commerce, I've been working with the Chamber President, Jim McCula, on forming a Main Street merchant group, a representative group. So anytime we have a crazy idea for something to do on Main Street, we vet it with this group. It's business made up of business owners on Main Street. Before we do anything, we run it through that group just to make sure we're headed in the right direction, get ideas from that group for beautification and so forth. So that's just about established at this point. Probably early next year we'll talk a little bit more about that. I wanted to briefly mention former Texas Rangers Foundation. There's been a lot of news regarding the former Texas Rangers Foundation and their agreement with the city. I can't talk a lot about that right now. I'll be able to talk a lot more about it after December 5th, so the next meeting that we have. But basically, the former Texas Rangers Foundation has not met the terms of the agreement with the city. At this point, there have been a number of extensions to the original agreement. They have done some wonderful improvements out there. They've done some wonderful things in the community that have had a positive impact, and I can tell you it's been a very tough decision by the City Council. But again, a lot more to come on that. I'm sure a lot of you may have specific questions about that. I can try to answer some of those maybe offline, but again, we really can't talk about a lot of that. It's a legal matter at this point. Tax increment reinvestment zone is another item that we've been talking to the council about. There have been a number of presentations. In fact, we had a joint meeting with the county commissioners last week and had a very good discussion with them regarding a tax increment reinvestment zone. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the details. If you want to see the boundaries of the zone and listen to that discussion, take a look at that meeting. There's a lot of information online regarding that. The council will also be considering next steps over the next couple of meetings, including taking a look at a feasibility study, trying to make a determination to move forward with that. And then finally, development. Someone mentioned there's a lot of development. It's not explosive development, I would say, in terms of population increase. We have seen a lot of multifamily. I presented a slide at council yesterday that had some data from the chamber regarding apartment occupancy. So I'm going to go back to 2019, actually up to March 2023. We didn't have any new apartments constructed before March, roughly a handful maybe, but about 900 units available for rent with an almost 100% occupancy. So fast forward to May 2024, and we have 1,300. So we've essentially almost doubled that apartment stock to date. And we've gone with the new units to an overall occupancy rate of 80%. So a number of those new apartments are being occupied. We're not sure who is occupying them, but that would certainly move the needle on population right there. We also have a number of single-family residential subdivisions that have been built out and homes bought up. There's one off of Pica. That's the D.R. Horton development. Of course, you see all the activity off Friendship Lane. That is a Lennar development. Just about as soon as those homes are built, they're sold, if not before. So, you know, we have a lot of demand for that type of thing, and those are being consumed. Let's see. So I did have I just wanted to mention, since we have a council member, Randy Briley. Is Randy still here in the room? I did have my evaluation a couple of council meetings ago. And I'm still standing, so thank you, Randy. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd say Randy and I were friends, but... So, you know, it's an interesting process that you go through with the city manager's evaluation. And Randy's actually been very good at helping me put together a list of the organization's accomplishments and documenting them along with goals for the next year. And I will tell you, as I'm sitting over here listening to Sean talk, and, you know, just seeing what a wonderful job he's doing and all the staff around the room that are working so hard every day for everybody in this room. I just wanted to read some of the accomplishments that the organization has accomplished over the last year. Fredericksburg Food and Wine Festival. That is an event that took a tremendous amount of staff time to put together. We were not motivated to drive that event to the level that it deserved, quite frankly. The chamber took that over, and it was highly successful in their first year this year. The 34th year the event has been held. That will only become bigger and bigger, and if you didn't participate in any of the local specific, almost local specific events in the preview week, look forward to that this next year. It is meant to be more of a locals event, so we let that go and the chamber took that over. The new soccer fields out by the airport, that is 100% privately funded. Well, I say 100%. We paid for the construction of the parking lot. But about $3 million in contributions from the community to build those soccer fields. So we're finally, after almost 8 years, getting that going. We implemented a number of cost savings and revenue generating initiatives out of a list of 43 initiatives as part of the budget process this year. And I can tell you that what we're trying to do is identify revenue coming in, again, through different channels other than your property tax to support especially our general fund in our budget that supports our police department, fire, EMS. So we were very successful in implementing a number of those. We set general fund priorities in the budget to include a pay increase for city employees, but an extra pay increase for our PD sworn officers. We also got the council to approve a new starting salary for our police officers that gets us competitive with surrounding communities. So we're closer than ever to being fully staffed. Very proud of that. It's a very difficult field to be fully staffed in. So thank you guys for all the work y'all do. We're working hard for you every day to make sure you get all that you need. Let's see. Sean mentioned community outreach. We hit that very hard last year, 27 town hall meetings. Everyone had the opportunity to get in front of us and the majority of the city council. We bought a new city hall. We transitioned Fort Martin Scott from city ownership to Texas Historical Commission. Much better programming. We're not paying the $150,000 in maintenance for that effort anymore. A shared use pedestrian bridge that Garrett had been working on. TxDOT project, about $1 million funded through TxDOT. We reviewed the city's charter. In fact, I see some folks that are in the room here from that process. Of course, adopted the budget. A number of staff changes. Our IT director, of course, our public information officer, Sean. We have our new city secretary, Leticia Vasek, with us today. 35 years of experience. We also started our Fredericksburg Citizen University this year. So, a number of accomplishments that the organization was able to achieve. Looking forward to next year, we're looking at, again, a number of grant opportunities, pursuing grant opportunities. We're going to be very intentional about that. Sean mentioned increased community outreach. We're already doing that with our radio spot, begin getting back out into the community. Long-term water supply, waste transfer station. We're looking at transferring our waste out of the city of Fredericksburg, eventually to a facility that will recycle almost 100% of what we generate here, stop putting it into the ground and jeopardizing our groundwater supply. Use of HOT, hotel occupancy tax, for police department and fire EMS. We're working really hard. We're going to be working very hard through the current legislative session to get approval to use hotel occupancy tax to supplement our police department and fire EMS. I'm very optimistic at this point we're going to be able to get that done. So a lot of things that we've accomplished and a lot of things coming up in the organization. So I'm looking forward to a very successful 2025. At this point, what I typically do is go around the room. If anyone has any questions, we have a number of staff here, whether it's for me, the Parks Department, PD. We have representatives across the organization here. We'll try to answer your questions. If you have a comment, we'll take those too. But again, thank you for being here, and I'll start with the table right here. And if you could grab a mic while you make your comment or ask your question.
Hi, I'm Mary Williams, live in the city. Do you have any updates on the development of the hotel at 87 and 290?
So the developer is moving forward with that development, and I don't know if you might be able to add anything else to that, but as far as we know, they are moving forward with the development of a hotel conference center. I think the retail space will be in a different phase, potentially, or several phases down the list, But that is still moving forward. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sounds like most of my questions were probably more appropriately should be directed to TxDOT. But one of them is the corner at Immigrant. The two ramps, they have such a steep, it's a square corner that I've seen two people trip on that little bit that's left in the corner in front of Immigrant. So I had some concerns about that because I can see where they would trip. And then on the TxDOT markings, they put the reflectors in the driving lane instead of over in the turning lane part of those yellow stripes. And so I'm trying to get accustomed to the new lane configuration, and I'm going blop, 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 blop down the street, where if they were over in the turning lane, well, only those needing to turn would have a couple of blop blops instead of me going all the way through Main Street on blop, blop, blop. Then downtown, they have really nice transition between turning left at one end and turning left at the other. They have a nice transition that's nice and smooth, but you get over to the west end, and why are they cutting them at 45-degree angles and really narrow openings between the yellow and the white line? I don't understand that part.
Okay.
And then if you go out where 290 and 87 split, it's great to have the pavement marking of which highway's what, but I think it should be a little clearer where 87 is actually separating there at the post office. So
Okay.
I think all that's more TxDOT than you, but those are some of my concerns.
Okay.
And we didn't understand the one-way thing of changing some of Austin to one-way.
Sure. So traffic backs up on South Washington, past Creek Street, even beyond that, especially on the weekends. What that conversion of that one block to a one-way does is it reduces the traffic signal rotation through each leg by one leg, so it adds about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes of time to the remaining 3. So that intersection is queued up more frequently and or for a little bit longer duration. So you can clear traffic through that intersection much more quickly, and there wasn't that much traffic coming south on Washington Street compared to, say, Elk Street. So that's something that we actually looked at in a 2016 master plan, transportation master plan, and it's something that TxDOT agreed with and moved forward with. Okay. So I know it's a lot to get used to, and again, we have a number of different projects that include roadway extensions and other adjustments that will compensate for that. TxDOT's looking at traffic now, and they will also look at it about 30 days from now to see how it's adjusting to those changes. But I think it'll be a benefit in the end.
Okay. I've volunteered for a few years over at the thrift store that was Hill Country Memorials, and then had become Create Healthy. And we were recently notified that there will not be the Create Healthy thrift store after the first of the year. What was my point? I have to ask my wife. Yeah.
I guess we were, so many people and friends of ours, since we worked at the establishment, are asking, was there a notification to the public that the thrift shop would be closed?
I think there was something published in the newspaper. I'm not sure how widespread it was.
Has the property been sold?
I'm not positive. I cannot answer that question.
Okay, because
Not
neither
sure.
could Ms. Pope.
Okay.
And we were, we understood that it would take $1 million to bring it up to code. And we're, it's the oldest store there. It's very loved. And so many people say it was our tax dollars that bought it and years ago. And that if there had been a proper notification before, that this community, like raising money to pay
Sure.
for the updates.
I can
and
get a
keep
little
it
bit.
maintained.
I can get a little bit more information
Okay, please,
regarding that.
Please do,
Reach
because
back
we're
out to
flooded
you.
with so
and-
many
Sure.
questions and we couldn't answer.
Sure. You bet.
George Studer, I live in 1015 Avenue D. To follow that up, there are a number of questions about Create Healthy and the hospital situation that I hope that we'll get more light on in the coming weeks. I do want to mention the Klein Room as an accomplishment this last year. It's really impressive and a great addition to the city, I think. I have a question about bills in the Texas legislature and those that might be good for our city or bad for our city. Does the city take a position or want to advocate different kinds of bills that are just been put in there or maybe in the process of being put in there?
Sure. We do get involved in that process, and it's typically through our mayor and council and city attorney. You'll be hearing updates from me and the city attorney through the session. We did get an update at a Texas Municipal League conference on some proposed legislation that may affect cities. We'll be giving a pretty good update to the council probably right after the first of the year regarding a lot of those bills. So very high level. One that I just mentioned that we may be pursuing legislation on is the use of HOT for PD fire EMS. I'm not sure we're going to take that route, but there's a potential for that. I just wanted to mention that this gentleman and I worked for about 18 years together with the city of San Angelo, so know him very well.
Augusta Miller, I'm referring to the beautification on Main. I have a question on the Glockenspiel.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it tucked way away? It's supposed to be seen all year round. So I've been in Munich at it once. Okay, I've been in Munich once, and it's on an open marketplace. And then you know when it's going to time to ding-a-ling, and the people can come around. But back there, where it's going, why?
Well, I think there's a number of people that agree with you that it needs to be in a different location. However, the location that it is currently being proposed was chosen by the Market Square Redevelopment Commission. So it's not set in stone yet. We're hearing from folks that think it should be more prominent up front,
yes,
versus in the back. So a lot more to come on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Good morning. Bill Wagaman from Heritage Hill Country. Quick question on development. The old, I'm calling it the Feller Ranch, out on Gaiman Lane and between
yes,
290 and Gaiman. Is there any status on what the owners of that are going to do?
Well, I've heard that they're looking at constructing a Waldorf Astoria resort in that location. That is outside the city limits. However, they are connected to city utilities. So we have not been heavily involved in that development. This round, I can't really answer a lot of questions regarding, and I see our development services director shaking her head no. They have really not involved the city that much in their plans for developing that site. That may be a county commissioner issue. They may have a little bit more information, but I just really don't.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Lindy Siegel, I'm just outside the city limits. How many other county residents do we have in the room? Okay. Clinton, any other highlights from that joint city council county commissioners meeting that you could share?
Well, the first half of that was fire EMS 101, and then sharing with the council and the commissioners the a proposed 5-year plan, which includes 8 strategic initiatives. So fire EMS, of course, covers the entire county with a full-time staff with the Fredericksburg Fire Department. They also have a number of volunteers, about 30 full-time staff, about 30 volunteers with the Fredericksburg Fire Department. Countywide, about 120 volunteers in 6 volunteer departments. And the needs for all of those departments are growing with the increase in growth, permanent population, and of course tourism. You've heard some of these stats before, but about 80% of our calls through the Fredericksburg Fire EMS department are related to issues within the city limits. That takes up about 20% of their time. About 20% of the calls are out in the county. That takes up about 80% of their time. So we serve the entire county, and again, it's all about response times, having the appropriate number of staff, the equipment, and that was just an education for both groups on what's going on and what's coming up. When you look at the number of calls on a monthly basis that they respond to, that continues to increase month over month, year over year. So it's not slowing down. Just to give you an idea, a ladder truck, we just bought one in the budget, about $2.5 million, and it takes about 4 years to get one. So there's a lot of advanced planning that goes into the equipment. Of course, maintaining those salaries, being able to staff those departments. Just giving the county commissioners and the council a good idea of what's going on and what's coming up. And again, that's all recorded. If anybody wants to learn about it, you can watch that discussion.
2 quick things. On behalf of our United States Air Force, a big thank you to fire, EMS, police, the Sheriff's Department. We hosted 30 airmen and women in 16 aircraft. If any of you were out at the airport this past weekend, it was their first deployment to T-82, which is our Gillespie County Airport. They were blown away by the services, by the hospitality. They Ubered all over town. And when they departed on Sunday, they said, please say a big thank you to the city of Fredericksburg. So give yourselves a big hand for that.
Well, thank you, Lindy. Thanks for that.
Number 2, on a little bit darker note, 35 years ago plus, I worked on the campaign called Don't Mess with Texas. As the winter defoliating starts to build, we're going to see a lot of litter, and that's kind of the downside. Please be conscious of it. We have a little neighborhood group that typically gets around and gets some of the litter up. You can't expect the city or the county to do all that, but let's be conscious of it. It's very much a part of our image. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Betty, and this is my husband, Bruce Harper. We live on Bob White Trail. And our question is, there's so many projects going on that even searching your all's website is a pretty monumental thing. You all were very helpful in directing us a couple of times to be able to check out some things. But just for the people that aren't aware, there was recently finished 7 3-story apartment buildings, 62 or 64 senior woodland cottages right next to it at the corner of Holmig and Friendship Lane. Across from the apartments is the new middle school. Now behind the apartment buildings on Holmig Lane, they'll have 2 entrances on Holmig Lane, is a 52-home development. Our question is, with all these separate projects, yesterday we got a letter about how they're going to be digging up the road. Bob White Trail is a dead-end street off a dead-end street. So we only have one exit. And, you know, as people are working, the equipment is there, and we understand it, there's still some discussion We have a couple of people on our street that have nothing to do with the city. They don't sit on the council or anywhere else, don't work for the city, but they have all the answers. And so they're looking at telling us there's going to be a separate project that is going to widen Homig Lane, widen our street, and put sidewalks in. And the speed on Homig is still the police department. There's no way they can sit there. They just can't do it. And all, but the speed on Homig coming from the end of it forward, and there's 3 miles of it. Speed limit is 35 at the county line, which is the backyard fences across the street from us. And coming forward into the city. City limit is 40. The county limit is 35 on Homig Lane. I haven't seen anybody yet, even with the big equipment right on the edge of Homig Lane, that is doing the speed limit. And all, there's big trucks because there's construction companies down there and all kinds of, I don't have the answer. I wish I did, or you all could hire me. And all, but it's just the speed. I don't know what the answer is to slow those people down, because some of them, by the time they reach our street, are doing 60 miles an hour. And for us to go out onto Homig Lane, it's pretty dangerous. But also, where can I find about I've searched the website about sidewalks and widening on our street and Homig, because it's a separate project, would be a separate project, I'm sure. So if there's any way that somebody can direct me to find that, that's fine. I've spent quite a bit of time on the website and I can't find anything, so I'm hoping that it's not there.
I'm not aware of a project that includes the widening of Homig or sidewalks to be constructed. The city does have a sidewalk plan. You can look at that. Unless it's voluntary, there won't be a sidewalk built outside of that typically. Also, that development you're talking about behind the apartments was on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda. Did you find that, so you know what that consists of? I would say that's the best place to start and watch that, listen to that discussion. To find the details, or just call us or come in and sit down and we can walk you through that too. You can be the expert if you come talk to us. We'll tell you exactly what we know about it. Thank you.
Karen Pooser, we have property here in town. I am just tickled about these yellow arrows. I think that was the great idea at the traffic stop, at the traffic lights. My second question is, or my one question is, I've read a little bit about the fire department recycling or collecting water, rainwater, but I haven't really seen where or how soon that's going to be happening.
Right, so we do have a project that will be happening at the South Station, at the warehouse. We were talking about a project at the existing City Hall, and we're also talking about a project at the new City Hall. So that's something that we are going to start doing for landscape irrigation to fill up fire apparatus, vehicles, things like that. And you'll be hearing a lot more about rainwater harvesting, this one water concept, the resolution the city adopted through the Hill Country Alliance, talking about the full water cycle, and you'll be hearing a lot more about recycling. I already mentioned it. Solving the putting trash in the ground, potentially contaminating our groundwater issue. We're working hard on that too. Thank you. Mr. Murby.
Ron Murby, also from Bob White Trail. And I dodged a lot of trucks and traffic to get here to ask you about, I read in the paper where you're going to stop leaf pickup December 13th. And I've got these pesky leaves that think they should hang on until about Christmas. But then I end up with 3 feet of leaves piled across the entire front of my property. And according to what I read there, unless you start the program up again after the leaves fall, because none of mine have fallen yet, I'm going to have to pay you $100 to come pick them up.
Well, that's something we run into every year, and we can't predict the last day leaves are going to fall, so we're very flexible on that end date. It's not just completely open-ended, but I would expect that would be extended a little bit. So I wouldn't worry about that all that much right now. But we certainly appreciate everybody that does get their leaves out. That helps keep the town clean, and we convert that right into usable material at the end. So, yeah, I've got a lot that haven't fallen in my yard too. So, yeah, it'll probably go behind that. But there is in April, right, when the live oak leaves fall. That's a little bit late. Right.
Good morning. I have a question concerning trees. Now, I live off the end of North Cherry, which is getting some rezoning in our area. And my question is, as that's rezoned and more houses come in, is there any way or anything that we could do to save some of the trees, the huge old trees that are going to be destroyed on the property that's been rezoned and still under discussion on exactly how many houses can go in there? So it seems to me that we're trying to have nature, and things are working against us, and the loss of those trees is one of them. We'll not stop the rezoning, because more houses, more people, more houses, more people. But if there's any way to keep some of that feeling of why we moved there from being lost in the new houses coming in that are going to impact me on the end of North Cherry and Agave.
Yes, ma'am. That's something that developers always take a look at when they're developing. That's something developers look at all the time when they're developing subdivisions. Unfortunately, they can't all be saved. I live 2 doors down from you. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, my neighbors are here, so we're
And we...
concerned about the changes and the loss of all of those huge old trees. And there's no tree ordinances in the city, the county, anywhere that says you must not cut down a tree that's over 150 years.
Right, a number of those will be lost as part of that subdivision construction, but again, that's something we even work intentionally with the developer to try to avoid. Those are assets to the development. They make lots very attractive for sale as well, so you can't save all of them, no doubt.
They could save all of them if they want to.
They could.
More houses, more space. They can take all the trees off if they want to. There's nothing that says they have to save any trees, as far as I know.
Yeah, there are some. You want to speak to that, Garrett?
So there is, I'd say it's minimal, a tree preservation ordinance, but I've mentioned it in the past. We are working on a new unified development code. So Clinton mentioned One Water that will be incorporated into the new code. We'll do something similar for landscaping and tree preservation. Yes, ma'am. That's true.
What's interesting at night, if you are looking at Fredericksburg from an airplane, is how much darker town is, because there are so many more trees here than, say, Mason, Menard, Llano, even Burnett. Marble Falls doesn't have nearly as many trees. And again, I think that's a priority generally of property owners here and people that come in and develop. That tree preservation, it's important to the subdivision. I think most people understand that, but you can't save them all. You certainly can't save them all.
I got a question. Well, not necessarily a question, but maybe, what? Oh, get closer, okay. It concerns EV vehicles, I guess is a good way to put it, those electric vehicles. Those fires, if they happen, cannot be put out with water. They have to burn themselves out. And I think I didn't know anything about it until maybe a month ago at the most, that I started checking all this stuff out. And the only way they can do anything with them is smother them, and that means put some kind of a special cover over them to contain them. And that's the only thing they can do to it as far as it letting itself burn out. Okay, in that process too, it puts out some pretty toxic metals in the process of doing that. So the smoke is real hazardous in one of these cases. And I talked to the fire department here in town, and the only thing they said that they could do with those things, and I don't think they have a blanket yet to put over it, to keep the people away and to protect the surrounding businesses, and that's the only thing they could really do. So that's kind of a sad situation and a dangerous situation. That we haven't had an accident, thank goodness, but I think that's something that really needs to be put out to the civilian population, military comes out here, to the population in general of the hazard concerned with that and what has to happen or should happen to keep the people away. Because that is going to be a big problem if it ever happens in Fredericksburg. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you.
I don't know who gets it now.
Dana Rowan City. Just about those trees, walking by some, they have tags on them. They might be, some of those trees might be part of a study by University of Texas or somebody, and it'd be a shame to cut them down without telling the researchers that your tree you've been studying is now gone. So you might want to think about, or at least let the developers know that there's tags on some of these trees and to inspect them before they do anything about that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Emerson.
Good morning. Thanks again for all the things that you're doing up there. Back to the comments that was made by the gentleman about the electronic vehicles. We had the opportunity to go out to Harper yesterday, where Peregrine Energy Solutions was giving a presentation on an electric battery storage site that they're going to put in a quarter mile from the school out there, just on the other side of 290. Our fire department has responsibility, along with the volunteer fire department out there in Harper, for that. I don't think you have a foam generating machine. You might want to chat with the developer who's putting that thing in, and if they're willing to, pay the amount of money that they're saying they're going to be generating to the county is $30 million a year in tax revenues. The amount of money that they're making is way in excess of that. Special training for the fire department as to what they can and can't, or should and shouldn't do. Special equipment in order to be able to, this is going to have 189 battery storage units out there. Those things are relatively large, and when they catch fire, like you said, they burn to the ground unless you've got some special equipment to be able to work on that.
Sure. We've been talking about that. Yes, sir. That's one of our concerns, too.
Right. Right. Significant amount of money. And the concern, obviously for the folks out there is if it's hazardous to firefighters, what about the students?
Sure.
If you're going to provide the firefighters with hazard protection suits, what about the students? That are there in school, so it's a concern, especially considering the winds that we have around here, the fact that if it blows, it catches the brush on fire and things like that.
Sure.
The other thing that was concerning is we ask, so how many plants does this company operate? Well, I think they have 3. So that's their historical track record. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, these are from Finland, and they will give you what's very slick presentation, but there are not a lot of questions answered, and the basic bottom line is we can do it because Texas needs more energy. There are no laws to protect neighborhoods or schools or public spaces. So thank God it's not in Fredericksburg, but if it ever starts to come, we all need to get up off our seats and go and talk and protest as much as we can.
I think a huge step in the right direction would be for Harper to consider being incorporated. We have talked to them about that with experts in the room. Again, I'm not sure they're interested. Yeah.
There apparently aren't any permitting requirements in the state of Texas. Pardon? Yeah, absolutely. The other thing they were touting was these boxes that they have with the lithium batteries in them that are produced in Finland, and they were talking about, here's how they stand up in fire tests. And I said, well, how long have they been in operation, and how many have you got out there? It's like, these are prototypes. That's what they're testing, is prototypes. It's like, so those other 3 plants that you have aren't using this. No, they're using something different. So it's a company with no track record using equipment that has not been used before. It's like, if you feel like being a guinea pig, go move to Harper.
Sure. I have Ellen Troxclair's phone number if you'd like to contact her. She'd be happy to talk to you about it. That's probably the level you need to take that.
There were folks from other counties, and the state representative was there.
Okay.
There are other counties have got 351, 321, 391. It's a section of the law where they are banding together to try and fight against these, but
Gotcha.
Gillespie County hasn't joined that yet.
Thank you.
One other thing, sorry. I know we're all concerned about trees, but I understand that the city is considering extending the road at the back of the Cherry Blossom Estates we live in, which I think is Jennifer, into the newly developing area. Instead of extending that road, at least those trees on the back of the development could be shut down. If they're only putting maybe up to 10 houses in there, a little pipe stem road in there, instead of, oh, okay, we're going to cut all these trees off at the back of the lot, and we have to get you out of the lot as well. At least save the ones back there because they're big.
So just a suggestion. A theme here is county, county, county. I think this forum could be enhanced by an occasional, maybe quarterly, a county representative being, and obviously I think everybody here applauds the transparency and what the city provides, and I get it's a separate jurisdiction, but there's an obvious nexus between the two, and I think it would be enhanced with county representation on an occasional basis here.
We had that for a while with the outgoing commissioner, Dennis Neffendorf. We're trying to get that back. We're trying to get a rep
I think
here.
it'd be county staff, whoever
Right,
whoever
sure.
the appropriate person is. I
Yep.
just think it was great, and I think it would.
I agree.
We would benefit.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Completely agree.
Tom Musselman, I live on Friendship Lane. Last night, the council gave staff direction on another apartment project on Friendship Lane. And driving here this morning, I'm watching cars zip out of the Lennar subdivision trying to play dodgeball with cars going east and west on Friendship. So I'm kind of like a broken record. There needs to be something done with, is there any plan now to put any kind of signalization or any kind of stop signs to slow down traffic or to make it safer, especially at the intersections of Friendship Lane and South Creek and Friendship Lane and Eagle Street? Or do we have to wait for a horrendous accident? Secondly, is the city planning on an overall traffic study for Friendship or a continuous traffic study for Friendship from Highway 16 to 290 to see how much the volume is going up? Then the third thing for Garrett is, and I guess for Chris, is we talk about water and we talk about our sewage capacity. I know that the city of Dripping Springs stopped annexations because I believe it was because of their sewer capacity. Do we know what our sewer capacity is? And could that be something with, with our ability to our water distribution ability and then our sewer capacity? Is that something that the city, in part of their evaluation of projects, could say that we are at, I don't know what percentage we are at sewer capacity now. Let's say we're at 40%, that each time a project comes on, we could give an estimate of how this would increase the sewage capacity so that when we get close to maximum, that's sending us a signal that we really need to do something about the expansion of the existing.
We're all over that last issue, but I'll let Chris explain and then address the other two.
Yeah, so as far as Friendship Lane, yes, I have a proposal from a consultant that I'll be sharing with Clinton and Garrett to do a traffic study for all of Friendship Lane. It'll also include the pedestrian crossing locations, the new middle school, the apartments west of Holmig. So that is something that we have prepared and we'll be working through. As far as the water and sewer capacity, Clinton mentioned the update to the water wastewater master plan that will be considered by council at the December 3rd meeting. That is our roadmap. That's more of a collection and distribution, collection on the wastewater side, distribution on the water side. Look at those projects and how these developments and or some of our public works projects affect the overall system and what CIP projects need to come out of that for future budgets. In addition to that, once we finish our update to our water wastewater master plan, we will look at rates and how those projects in the future could affect rates. And then also our impact fees. Our impact fees are up for a restudy. Legislation requires us to look at that, I believe, every 5 to 7 years. We're at about that 5-year number right now. So there's just a couple of things. As far as our wastewater capacity, treatment capacity, we're just over half. So we're permitted for 2.5 million gallons a day. We see about 1.2 to 1.3 million gallons a day on average. So we certainly have the capacity on our treatment facility to handle additional growth in the community.
Do you want to talk about the TCQ 70% requirement?
Yeah, so TCQ has some regulations. At 70% of your permitted capacity, you're required to start doing some planning, start looking into how you're going to handle the increased growth. And then at 90%, you're required to have basically construction plans, shovel ready, the funding, conversations, and moving forward with either an expansion or a new plant to handle that additional.
Did they reach that 90%, and that's when they said they put in a moratorium on development?
Not familiar. I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah, I think it had to do something more with the discharge side, discharging into certain streams. That was one of the limitations that they were seeing.
I have one other comment. The traffic on Friendship is, I think, worse from Adams Street to 290. It increases, it gets worse from 87 to 290. And my fear, I see it every day. I see the amount of traffic that's going by and the number of cars that are waiting at the Creek Street and also the Eagle entrances. And I'm just wondering, is there any plan? With over 100 houses at Lennar and they are turning on to Friendship, is the city asking the developer at Lennar to improve their intersection at 87 so there's a back entrance to Lennar and you could use the 87 entrance? And are they supposed to put in a turn lane into the Lennar subdivision? And if so, is that going to happen? There's going to be a serious wreck there. It's just a matter of time.
Yes to all of those. The developer is required to put I've been through there as well, and I've certainly waited behind many cars. So I've seen that, which is one of the reasons we're looking at the traffic study. Again, The vehicular traffic is obviously a huge concern, but the pedestrian traffic is also a big concern. There's no signalization for crossings unless you're at one of the TxDOT traffic signals. So that's another one of the big concerns that we have. The developer, Lennar, is required to put a left turn lane on Friendship Lane, but they're also required to put a right turn deceleration lane there into the Creek Street extension. In addition to that, Creek Street, as part of the current phase, is being extended, or is extended all the way out to 87 South. They are working with TxDOT. It's my understanding the donation agreement has been approved, and that will be constructed, basically the approaches and the requirements of TxDOT on the 87 side. So all of that is under construction with the current phase that they're developing.
Okay, anyone else? Well, thank you for your comments and questions. So I typically ask the group if there is anyone you would like us to try to bring to the next coffee or a future coffee to present. We've had Santa Claus. We've had Create Healthy. We've had the hospital. Yes, ma'am. City and County Library, okay. I will work on that. I was also going to suggest that I'll reach out to a county commissioner if you would like to hear from them and just get an overview of what's happening in the county, what they're going to be working on over the next year, some of the challenges they face, field questions. Anyone interested in that? Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the county commissioners what Gillespie County does for the county taxpayers that live inside the city.
We have to be nice during that meeting, so.
Maybe it's good he didn't have a mic.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not going to repeat that question, so. Okay, anything else? Thank you for being here again, and let's give Sean another hand. We'll see you next month.